What's happening, everybody? How y'all making out there? Today's episode of the Crash Bang Boom podcast is the continuation of the New Orleans drummer series I've been bringing to y'all. And I've got a guy I've been digging on for many years, who I've known for many years, and who is a diverse player from a crazy musical family, and knows how to get it done with his stoner rock power trio, Suplecs, who's been doing it, by the way, for about 20 years now. And I'm talking about the one and only Andi, the mean spleen, he always eats his greens Preen, a.k.a. Andi Preen, y'all. But it was fun catching up with him and getting all nostalgic and going over some drummer rants about Cozy Powell and John Bonham and Ian Paice. And, of course, talking about some of those players, kind of hard to not talk about Ritchie, Blackmore, and Ronnie James Dio, guitarist and vocalist, respectively. But we also got into his Vaudeville/musical family lineage and wildly talented multi-instrumentalist brother, some of the influential heavy music that his brother got him into, and, of course, identifying the hospital someone was born at in New Orleans depending on their belly button, i.e. an innie or an outie. And I actually fucked that up and got it straight at some point. But definitely fun talking to Andi and shooting the shit about Suplecs and getting some crazy tour stories and reminiscing about the many years now, the ritual, if you will, of playing on Mardi Gras Day at Checkpoint Charlie's. For any of you that are listening to us that are not from New Orleans, if you ever find yourself down there, swing through 4 to 7 or whatever it is, 3, 4, 5 hours that they play on Mardi Gras Day. It's killer. You got to do it. It's a ritual. As they said on there, all on a Mardi Gras Day, y'all. And speaking of New Orleans, shout out to my sponsor, New Orleans Record Press. If you're looking at putting out vinyl for your project, check out NewOrleansRecordPress.com. They're the first state-of-the-art record press facility in the city of New Orleans, and they'll press 12 and 7-inch records at 150 and 180 grams. Plus, they have colored vinyl options, center label printing, blank and printed packaging styles, deluxe audio mastering, precision lacquer cutting, and electroplating. Sounds fucking scientific, doesn't it? They'll even offer professional graphic design and project consultant services if you need them. Don't see what you need on that site? Need more options? Contact them for special projects, all right? They also do projects of all sizes, from runs as low as 100 units up to commercial pressings into the thousands. So check them out and tell them Crash Bang Boom sent you. And that's NewOrleansRecordPress.com, y'all. All right, let's get down to it. A nerd out, a nostalgic nerd out at that. My man, Andi Preen, Suplecs. Crash Bang Boom!
Crowds go mad with joy.
Andi Preen, what's happening, dude? How you making out?
Pretty good, man.
We escaped the cicadas. For those of you listening to this, I thought we could do this in my uncle's backyard, and the main threat was going to be the mosquitoes that were going to eat us to death, but turns out the cicadas are in a full-blown crazy cycle right now, and the volume was just too much. So now we're inside, and there's air conditioning and no mosquito threat, so I'm into this.
Thank God.
Yeah. How you been, dude? It's been a while. I haven't seen you in a minute. How you been making out?
It's been a while. Doing great. Totally living the adult life of family and job, and
yeah,
you know. But
I certainly get the family job thing. I'm immersed in that as well. Do you have any pets? Because I got a dog, a cat, a fish, and a son. I feel like it's a lot.
I have a fish that won't die.
How old?
I've had this fish for a year. It's a baiter fish.
I got one too. Someone gave me this fish.
Are they supposed to live for like a week?
Yeah,
I've had this damn fish for like a year.
Just won't die.
Yeah, and I feel bad if I just flush him down the toilet. So
I
just keep tossing a little food in his bowl every time, and then clean it every once in a while. I have he's not even 3 years old, but a chocolate lab, which I hear are crazy.
Yeah,
and he's a beast, 85-pound dog.
What's the old dog's name?
T-Bone.
That's one hell of a name for a dog.
My son had the name before we had the dog. He's like, my next dog, I want his name to be T-Bone. So.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Let's do it.
T-Bone's a good name, man. I'm into it. So for those of you listening to this who might not know how I know Andi, I guess we can try to bridge the gap here. But ultimately, I think it's from seeing you play with Suplecs, your band that you've been now playing with for potentially 20 years.
I think going on 22 years.
22.
Something like that. I started with them when I was 17.
Were you 17?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I used to sneak into Checkpoint Charlie's.
Really?
Yeah, I used to like walk in with my kick drum, and the guy would be at the door like, "Oh, let me see your ID." I'd be like, "Oh yeah, let me just put my drums up," and I'd put my kick drum in the back.
Yeah.
And I'd go to the bar and get a beer, and I'd just walk out and be like, "Oh man, and just
I'm set up. I'm here.
yeah,
I'm playing.
I'm here, and I just wouldn't leave. But yeah,
That's amazing. Holy shit, 22 years potentially.
Yeah, late '96.
Wow. That's crazy.
And Danny and Darrell had been playing in bands for years. They went to high school together.
Right.
They had 2 different bands with a different drummer, and they had another band that we used to go. Everyone used to go to the Fountain Blue storage place and see. It was like we call it rock and roll school, because on any night you'd see any band practicing. You can go and step in their room and watch them jam, and and they had a band. And I remember my brother had gotten a new bass, and Danny was checking it out, and we were in our room, and I was just kind of like playing along with him. And another buddy of mine was like, "Hey man, you should get this. You should get Andy to play with y'all." And they're like, "Oh yeah," just like we're all friends, we know each other. But then I guess they thought about it, like, "Hey man, you want to play with us?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And,
yeah. The rest is history.
Yeah, rest is literally history.
Wow, man.
But
that is wild. Now I know we were.
I think we know each other before that though, because
because I think I know this connection
from Brad Truby.
Okay, so a mutual friend,
the
bass player,
North Shore connection.
Yes, a bunch of North Shore people. Yeah. There's certainly that connection. Well, I know we were talking about it a little bit earlier, man. You come from a musical family. I do not, so I'm always fascinated. Also, I'm an only child, so I'm both fascinated by anyone who both has siblings and or comes from a musical family. That's a foreign concept.
Right.
So tell me a little bit of
musical and entertaining family, because
entertaining as well. That's important.
Yeah, because I think my dad's parents were like vaudeville kind of people.
Really?
Yeah. And he used to do like wax figurines and stuff like that. So they're very much they're very much into that kind of like that kind of lifestyle, like that artist kind of musician. I remember my dad used to always tell me, he's like, "Oh, you play New Year's Eve?" And I'm like, "No." He's like, "You're not a musician then." Like he would
really,
it's like
that's amazing.
You're not a real musician unless you got a gig on New Year's Eve.
Well, I mean, something came true in the fact that you played every Mardi Gras for the last 18, 19 years or whatever. Yeah. So maybe that's a different date.
Yeah, maybe
it came to fruition somehow.
Exactly.
But tell me about your dad, I guess, and your mother.
Well, my dad was born in England.
Really?
Yeah, he was from Liverpool. He left in enough time they couldn't join the Beatles. No, I'm just joking.
Oh wow!
He came over during the war.
Yeah.
And grew up uptown. I think his house. He said his house used to be shaded by Tulane Stadium.
Really?
His house was like 2 houses down from Tulane Stadium. So
amazing. He
went to like that. Lusher. He went to Forte High School back when Forte High School was like a prestigious type of thing. I mean, we remember Forte High School was like, wait, didn't they bring AK-47s to that school? It was like,
well, yeah, my dad went to John McDonough when it was all white, and
exactly, same thing.
So it's a different time.
We used to,
clearly.
And my mom is a military child. Traveled all around, and then went to nursing school in Austin, and then moved to New Orleans, and worked at Charity Hospital.
I was born there.
Really?
Yeah.
Let me see your belly button.
Yeah, it's an innie.
Oh, you got lucky.
I was born on July 4th, 1976, so it was special. They weren't going to just let me have an Audi because it was a special date. So that's how
I can tell where you were born.
Is that what it is?
By your belly button. You can tell what hospital you were born.
That's amazing.
I have some friends that we all were born at Toro, and we all have the same kind of belly buttons. It's a very deep belly button. You got
really,
you got to clean it out.
Oh wait, no, I'm wrong. I was born at Toro. I have an innie. I'm sleep deprived. I'm sorry. I was not born at Charity. I did, however, have a hernia operation done there at Charity, and to this day it still bothers me. So if that's any consolation,
right.
No. I mean, they might have done it right, but it's a really weird story actually. I had done a gig because I work in television. You work in the cinema film spectrum as well, and I went and filmed a hernia operation, and I was like. 2 weeks later, I was painting a house, and I had an extension ladder, just odd job bullshit.
Yeah.
and the ladder slipped, and I tried to brace it, and I was like, I feel like I tore something in my abdomen, but it couldn't be a hernia, because what are the odds that 2 weeks ago I was filming a hernia operation? Turns out I totally got a hernia. It bulged out the whole 9, and I went to charity, got it done, and it still bothers me to this day.
Wow.
So there's my charity. Sorry, I conflated the two. I was born at Toro, but had a hernia operation at charity.
Reborn at,
I was reborn at charity. Jesus Christ. Sorry. Okay, so your family.
Yeah, so my mom worked at Charity Hospital, and my dad from grade school used to play like cello, piano, and then like in middle school, I guess he gravitated towards the drums.
Okay.
And he played timpani. He used to play timpani in the orchestra, marching band, stuff like that. So like he'd always done like music, went to college for music, and when he came back, he used to play in like, jazz clubs all on down Bourbon Street. He used to be actually a drummer at like strip clubs. Oh. Where they used to actually, instead of like, DJ'd music, they actually had musicians.
A live band.
And it said it was always a saxophone player and a drummer. That's like the best music for striptease,
Fuck yeah. The groove and the sexy sax.
And, he said, he used to do that. He used to do theater. He used to do all these like kind of stuff at La Petite Theater and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think my mom said the first date they went on, hey, meet me at this theater. And then after we would go out for drinks. But he was basically running this pit band for this production.
Nice.
And so
that's pretty good in. I mean, it's better than running a sex ring at a strip club. I don't know how that would have gone over necessarily. But a musical family nonetheless. Your brothers play.
Yeah. I have 3 older brothers. Well, one's deceased, but he was an amazing guitar player. He died right after Katrina.
Sorry to hear that.
And but yeah, amazing guitar player. Very much like in that like 80s like shredder. Like he like when Eruption came out, he had it like in a week.
Really?
Yeah, and he even had like the dive bombs and everything, and like everyone in the neighborhood was like, wait, he plays it just like it. And he, Maiden. I mean, like he basically, when he moved out of my parents' house, just said, you can have these now, and it was like all Maiden, Judas Priest, Dio, like all these like vinyl. I still have them.
Really? You still got his records?
Yeah,
that's killer.
Tons of old like Jimi Hendrix stuff too. Like,
that's awesome. Was that when you were you introduced to that stuff prior to, from hearing it in the house, or was it kind of when you inherited his stuff?
The music going on in my house was like anything from like Buddy Rich to like Mary Chapin Carpenter or
American folk.
Yeah, my mom's a singer, but like very much like a church singer. So she like sings. She's not like a solo. She's more like a choir singer and stuff like that. So like she loves like the Beatles and kind of like singer songwriter kind of music and stuff like that. And my dad was really into like jazz, big band. He'd always pushed like Chicago on us. He's like, I can
see that.
That's a band, son. And we're like, yeah, they're good. Well, they're awesome. But
Danny
like,
Seraphin,
he totally he used to shove it down our throat. Like, oh man, now this is a band. Like
to this day, have you accepted Chicago?
Oh, I love Chicago.
Okay,
I never didn't not like them.
Okay,
but it was just like every time I like, hey, check out this band, and I'd play like some really good group,
Yeah,
and he would just be like, yeah, but listen to this. And
listen to Chicago.
Yeah. Blood, Sweat, and Tears.
Well, if he was into the big band stuff, I mean, Chicago was definitely about that.
Yes.
That was about as much band rock and roll.
He loved horns, and he loved drumming that supported the horns, like big band.
Right.
He even liked Wayne Cochran and CC Riders. You ever heard of a band called Chase? Like,
I don't think so.
Really killer band, but like with horns,
Okay.
like just like that 70s like horn bands where it's like these like 16-piece rock bands, like taking up the whole stage.
Yeah.
He just loved that stuff,
So all the stuff was going on in the house, it sounds like.
And then like, my other brother used to listen to all like this like techno music and drum and bass. I mean, like our record player at the house, like the records that were on the shelves, where it's like you could pull up one and it'd be like techno music, pop music, metal, you know, like everything. And I remember at a young age, my dad was like, yeah, this stuff's nice. It's cool, if you like it and stuff like that. But he was like, know how to play it all.
Right.
Like he was very much like, I know you like the rock music, but you don't want to answer your phone and say, hey, you want to come play with us? Be like, well, what kind of music are y'all playing? It's it's bebop.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't do bebop. But, like, so I kind of pride myself in like, well, I want to learn how to play everything. So
Yeah.
and I have done things where people have called me to play, and it's like, it's a it's a country gig. Be like, okay, and just I hate country, but
Really, even old country like Johnny Cash, you can't get into Johnny Cash or Hank Williams or the old shit.
Yeah, I mean,
It's fine.
yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to listen to it on a daily basis.
No. As a matter of fact, like once you heard one Johnny Cash song,
You feel like you heard them all.
you have.
Yeah.
It's basically the same riff, just different lyrics. You're gonna get hated for that.
I know, right? Well, there is certainly some repetition in that stuff. That's funny, man. Well, let me ask you this: at which point did more like heavier rock and roll stuff enter into your life? Was that via your brother's influence?
Totally.
So
totally.
like Van Halen and, and
I mean,
Maiden and Sabbath and shit like that?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, my parents were like very cool in the aspect of like, like when MTV came out and you'd see like some, Ozzy Osbourne with like, stuff on his face or, just like they didn't were like, oh, you can't listen. Like I've had so many like friends growing up that their parents either wouldn't let them watch MTV.
Yeah.
Like there's one kid that I grew up with, like his parents wouldn't let him listen to Kiss.
Really?
And totally believe that they were Satan worshipers. And
That's
like,
hilarious. That's
like,
the least satanic band of them all.
And like the only way he could trick them is he had a recording of Beth on like a blank tape.
Right.
And he could listen to that.
Right.
Because, I mean, his parents didn't know that was Kiss. But.
Exactly. That's amazing.
But, I mean.
Holy shit.
Yeah, just, having older siblings. I mean, my brother used to play in his thrash band. They used to practice at the house, and I used to go out there and watch him practice. And they'd play all these songs, and I'm like, man, that's a killer song, And then I found out that it was Metallica or Anthrax, and they were just basically a thrash band that did like Metallica covers. But I was like, well, who's Metallica?
Yeah,
like, and then I was like, oh, it's like they're just doing covers of Metallica and stuff like that, and it was really good. But I got introduced to that kind of like, that
mid-'80s thrash metal.
Thrash
basically.
metal. My brother was a big thrasher, but classic rock too. I mean, he loved Iommi, Blackmore. I'm like on the fence between Iommi and Blackmore. I mean,
yeah,
everyone's always like Iommi. It's like
Blackmore.
Blackmore, I think could
you
wipe
get
the floor with
Rainbow, you get Deep Purple. Ouch.
Yeah.
I mean, just between Rainbow and Deep Purple. Whoa.
Yeah.
So that's a tough fence
Same
to
thing
straddle.
with Ian Paice. Everyone's like, oh, John Bonham. I was like, I think Ian Paice was.
You know what it is?
I think he's got better chops.
Oh well, I would. Boy, we're going sacrilegious all the way here, but I would say I love them both. Undeniably, I've said that Ian Paice is kind of the Buddy Rich of like heavy rock shit.
Yeah.
Like his solos were super ripping, his grooves were super tight,
And he's still ripping.
To this day.
Right.
Yeah.
He ain't slowing down.
He ain't slowing down. He's riding till the wheels fall off. Gotta appreciate him. I feel the same way about Ronnie James Dio because once again, that relates to Ritchie Blackmore. I mean, Dio did Black Sabbath, Rainbow, and solo Dio stuff. I love all that shit too.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck is going on, man? That is an incredible connection of all of those musicians, and I love all the shit they did. It's incredible. It's hard to even pick.
It's a funny thing how like Ian Gillan went and sang in a band that they did like a vocal swap thing. It's like Ronnie James Dio went and sang with Blackmore in Rainbow, and then Ian Gillan went and sang in Black Sabbath.
Yeah, he did was it like an album or two? How many albums did they even do? I don't know.
Born Again was the record he did, and I don't know if he did another one or not.
Okay, they did an old swap-a-roo.
Yeah.
A switcheroo. Jesus. Well, yeah, I to this day I love so much of the Ritchie Blackmore stuff and Ronnie James Dio and them playing together in Rainbow and the drummer Cozy Powell.
Fucking awesome.
That guy is a guy that I talk about on this podcast all the time because I'm like, that dude, his sound, like when I hear Tommy Lee and Motley Crue later, I always thought that kind of big sound. I mean, it of course will go to Bonham, and Ian Paice did have some of that as well, but I think some of Cozy Powell's drumming in particular was super influential to the guys in the 80s.
Oh, not only that, like I think when people were putting together a band, like, oh man, we need a really good drummer. It's like, oh, let's get Cozy Powell.
Yeah.
That's what it seemed like, because it's
Cozy Powell played with Jeff Beck as well. So
Oh, yeah,
Jeff
and-
Beck was playing with the baddest dudes on the face
and
of the
it
planet.
was Emerson, Lake, and Powell before it was Emerson, Lake, and Palmer.
Oh, whoa! I didn't even make that connection.
Yeah.
Oh my God! No shit.
Yeah.
Oh, you're blowing my mind. How did I skip that detail?
Yeah.
Fuck.
You know, he's in the, he's in like this weird group of famous last words before they die.
What was his famous last
I
words?
think it was like, "Oh shit."
Are you serious?
Yeah, I was reading this thing about him, and apparently he was like on the car phone driving to his girlfriend's house. And I was reading this thing about it. I was like, man, how did Cozy Powell die? Like, I was just like kind of curious.
Car phone.
He died in a car accident.
I know I think yeah,
And
but
he was on the phone with his girlfriend.
what year
was
is this? This is like late 70s.
No. He
early 80s?
I think he died like early 90s.
No way.
I'm gonna have to look it up.
All right, we might
But
be
he was
fucking this
driving.
up.
He was driving.
He was
like-
driving
but
regardless.
then this thing they described all this stuff, and he was like on the car phone talking to his girlfriend, driving his Saab. And I was like a rock star driving a Saab? I don't know. And then he's on the phone talking to her and like made a wrong turn or did something and was like, oh shit, and like crashed the car.
Famous
And
last
it's
words.
like, man, and then like they said, like, you know, he lived fast and died fast. Like he loved motorcycles and fast cars, and
Oh my God.
then he played in Black Sabbath too.
Cozy Powell played in Black Sabbath?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's when Black Sabbath had
Are
like-
we sure? Are you sure? I feel like we're gonna double check. Everyone
We can
that's gonna listen to
double
this is
check
gonna be like, everything they're saying is wrong.
No, he played like if you look at the list of bands he's played in, like he's like the who's who of like rock and roll heavy metal bands.
He was definitely the guy.
He was the guy. Not only Rainbow for the longest time, White Snake.
Cozy Powell played in Whitesnake?
Yeah,
Really?
he played. Brian May from Queen put out a record. Got Cozy Powell to play drums
Come
on it.
on.
I shit you not.
You're blowing my fucking mind, dude. Meanwhile, I mentioned Cozy Powell all the time, and everyone's like, "Yeah, I've heard of him." And meanwhile, you're dropping all this knowledge.
You know, about a year ago, I was just really getting into like Rainbow. Not that I didn't before, but I was like
Yeah.
really just like
Yeah,
listening
loving
to
it.
Made a Rainbow station on Pandora.
Yeah.
Listened to it all the time.
Yeah.
And I just kind of like, and my older brother used to be like, oh yeah, fucking Cozy Powell. You know, I don't know why I did a different voice. You know, I
Right.
just did like an older brother voice. You know?
Yeah, that's fine.
But yeah, just like, yeah, Cozy Powell, killer, dude. You know, like. Funny note, not to get on a different subject, but
Yeah.
my brother used to play in metal bands, and it's a funny story. When my brother was learning to play the bass, and I was kind of learning to play the drums, kind of like the same time.
Yeah.
And he was, you know, already in bands and playing around. And we're at the house, like, you know, jamming out. And he just came by, you know, stopped by the house. I guess he was coming to see my mom. And we're like jamming. He's like, oh, what are y'all doing? Let me see what y'all doing. And he got on the drums and he was like, man, when you play, you got to like, you know, support the riff. You got to be like there with it, you know. And y'all play that song again? And he would play and he'd just be like, you know, see, I'm not just playing a beat.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm like emphasizing, you know, where the hits are and like, you know, kind of like, you know, you hear that riff, like play along with it, you know,
Right.
support it. And they're like, okay. So I'd do that. And then he'd get up and then he'd grab the guitar from my friend and like, here, this is how you should play the guitar. And he'd play the guitar all killer.
Really?
Hand the guitar back to him. Take the bass from my brother and be like, here, you should be playing the bass like this. And then he's
Jesus.
like, all right, now play again and like tighten it up a little bit. You know?
Really? My God.
But he could, for some reason, he had, you know, like his hands, like he couldn't do like a single stroke roller, and
Right.
he couldn't do any like rolls or anything. But he had like thrash double bass he can throw
Just
out.
rip.
And
Really?
and it was just like I just hated it because I couldn't do it, and he could just do it, you know.
How old were you or young were you when you even first started playing the drums in the first place?
Well, when I was a kid, my dad thought it was cute because like I would pick up sticks and
Sure.
play and stuff like that, and he's like, oh, he's a drummer. Look, Mom, he's a drummer. Let's get him a drum set. So he got me like this little drum set, but I was like real young, like maybe like 7 or 8,
Yeah.
and it was like in my room, and I thought I probably beat on it for like a couple of days, and then it just sat in the room. Finally went into the garage, and just like years passed, and totally didn't get into it, you know. And there'd be a few times where like I come home from school, and my dad either was like taking his drums out to change heads or tune them, or just kind of make sure all the parts were still there because he had a gig coming up, you know. And like I would walk in and see a drum set in the living room and be like, oh shit, you know, and lower the seat and start playing on it and stuff like that.
How old were you?
Like 10, 11, something like that. But it's like, and my brother had like a band at the time, and I could play the drums. Like I could play a beat, you know, just boom, bap.
Sure.
Boom,
it all starts with a beat.
Ting, ting, you know, and I can play, but I really didn't get into it. I really was just kind of like, you know, whatever, you know.
When it's,
And then a friend of mine started playing guitar. He played saxophone and then started playing guitar, and then he was like, don't you play the drums? And I was like, yeah. And I was doing snare drum in school off and on.
Yeah, same here.
And then he was like, man, let's, you know. And so basically he kind of like encouraged me to start really playing the drums. He's like, man, you should start playing the drums. We can have a band, you know. We can get a band going. We can play parties. We can get chicks. And it was like, all right, you know.
Meanwhile, he was wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. You can get your hands all calloused up. You can, you know, load your gear in a
sweat
club at 4 a.m.
Good stuff. But
So,
it started there.
It started there, and it wasn't until I was like, I would say like 13 that I was like, man, I really want to start playing the drums.
Yeah.
And like got sticks, got a snare drum, you know, and started playing on it. And then my dad was like, oh, you know, you can use my drums, but if the minute I have a gig, I got to take them down. So set the drums up and would play and stuff like that. And always, I'd always like come home and put on like a Kiss record and like start playing like Kiss. And then it would be like, wait, where'd the music go? You know, and you're like, here, play to this. And it'd be like Buddy Rich live at, you know, Las Vegas. And I was like, I don't even know what's going on. You know, why would you try and make me play to this?
A tornado of chops.
Yeah, exactly. And,
oh my God.
And then just, you know, start playing more and more and more. And then like, you know, my dad being very much like, you know, you don't want to just be some dude banging on the drums. They got to tell you when to stop. Like, be a musician. Like, learn music. Learn, you know, learn melody. Learn how to accompany somebody. You know, don't just listen to the shit rock and roll you're listening to. Like, you know, like, I mean, if I played Slayer, he'd be like, that's not music. You know, like. Right.
Well, dude, at some point you touched briefly on how Suplecs, it sounds like, got together. And I don't think I talked about it, but I did one of either the first time that y'all played what would be many years of doing it, the tradition of playing on Mardi Gras Day at Checkpoint Charlie's, I recorded it and did a video for y'all.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, was that the first or the second year y'all did it? It was a long time ago. And to this day, y'all still do it. Mardi Gras Day, Checkpoint Charlie's.
Between 5 and 10.
Between 5 and 10.
Yeah.
You've amassed enough music to play for nearly 5 hours, which is absolutely...
We take urine breaks.
Urine breaks.
I don't think that was the first year we did it, because...
It might have been the second or the third.
Second or third, because you were like, dude, I'm going to come and record y'all one time. We're like, all right, cool. And like, sure enough, you were there. And you're like, I'm going to record it. Like, all right, so play good.
Yeah. Sounds about right. You know what? Y'all have some really good stories. And I was hanging out with your bass player, vocalist, Danny Nick, who I've known for a very long time. And I feel like I'm at this point a curator of possibly more stories. I reminded him of stories that he had. But one of them, and because it's such an important timing thing, we can certainly talk about it, was post-Katrina. Apparently him and the guitarist, Darrell, played a gig or like showed up. They were in Lafayette, and they were like, welcome to the stage,
Shreveport.
the members of...
Shreveport.
It was Shreveport.
Shreveport, yeah.
Okay.
They were working in Shreveport.
Okay. And there was another band on stage, different instruments, different tunings, it sounds like, and they invite Darrell and Danny up on the stage. Welcome to the stage.
Well, they gave him a big red carpet entrance to get up there and play.
Applause. I hope they rock it. And Danny said they got up there and the instruments were tuned and in such a way.
Well, I think the bass was like a 5 or 6 string bass, and Danny's like anti-4. You know, anything above 4 is, you know, sacrilege.
Exactly.
The dude had like a like one of those like heavy metal guitars with like the pointy neck, you know,
Right.
like the gear that they gave him to play on was totally not that good. And I think they were a little inebriated too.
Yeah,
Like they
to boot.
because the guy whose band was playing was the drummer, and he's like, I know the song, I can play it, blah blah blah.
Right.
And they got up and played the song, and they didn't know it.
Right.
But the drummer did.
Right.
Was playing the song, and it said it was like a train wreck, you know.
Yeah, it was one of my friends. Well, that's exactly how I segued into it. I said, Danny, man, you got any good train wreck gig stories? He said, oh, yeah. And he told me the story. And apparently he said the way that it went down was he was just like, he just took the bass off and leaned it against the wall and was like, I'm out. Like, just
they might have just
abandoned.
left.
Yeah, just abort mission. We're getting out of here.
There's another funny story, and it's one of those things. It's not as funny as that, but like I think Steve was doing like an art show thing, and he wanted Suplecs to play an acoustic thing, and people were like,
Really?
Yeah, and it's like weird when people are like, hey man, y'all come and do an acoustic set. And it's like, you don't really want us to do it.
Right.
You know, like
Yeah.
it doesn't come off the same.
But y'all
way.
tried it?
Well, no. The thing is, so they're like, oh man, we're doing this thing, and I was at the time, I was out of town. So as a joke, they brought they brought a kick drum, and they put like a little cardboard cutout of a picture of me behind the kick drum, and it was like, hey, he's still here.
Right.
And Sharon and her friend Christy went to it, and it said it was like embarrassing. It was so horrible. and Danny to this day was like, yeah, he's like, I won't play a gig with just him and Darrell. He's like, you have to be there.
Yeah, of course. We're already a trio.
Yeah,
like
of
you're gonna
course.
do a duo
But
acoustic
we were just
gig?
saying-
What the
but
fuck?
it said it's like the curse. Like anytime they step away from me, they can't play their instruments, or you know.
Oh my God, that is amazing. I
So
mean,
if they ever try and replace me, it just won't sound the same.
it will never sound the same, man. I mean, there's definitely a story about a dump in a john or a urinal that is really good, and there is another one about a certain member vomiting in front of a bus of school children getting out. And I remember both of those stories, but we won't say whose stories that those belong to, but those are good nonetheless.
One time we're in, we're all from Louisiana. We're all from New Orleans.
Yeah.
So like we've seen snow like maybe twice in our lifetime.
Yeah.
So we're on this tour, and we're in New Hampshire. And we stopped at a Taco Bell. We ate our lunch, and we got back in the van. And I just happened to notice like this car pull up, and this guy like get out of the car with this girl, but they left their dog in the car. And it was freezing. I mean, it was like 2
Yeah.
feet of snow outside.
Yeah.
I mean, we're like freezing with the heater on in the van. And I was like, man, that kind of sucks. I'm just thinking to myself, like, hey, I left that dog in the cold, you know?
Yeah.
Like, And then I look over again, and the dog is taking this massive shit on top of the hatchback. The hatchback was folded down, and this dog took this huge shit. And then I alerted everybody in the van, like, dude, look what this dog just did, We're all like, oh my God, And then it's like, then we got to take pictures. So we took pictures with one of those little, disposable that's how long ago.
The disposable cameras. Exactly, not a cell phone.
And took a picture of the dog and the turd, the dog in the corner of the car trying to get fresh breath. And like, oh man, this is hilarious. And then it's like,
well, you got to wait for them to come
we have
back.
to stay. We have to say it, So we went in the back of the parking lot and just sat there and waited. And somewhere we have pictures where you can see the guy opening the door, the guy sitting in, the guy out of the car, swinging his hand, the dog running with his head down. And then we were late for sound check at the gig, and we're like, look, this is what happened. And like the tour manager was like, that's a ridiculous story. You better show me those pictures. The next day we had him developed, and he was like laughing his ass off.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's like the dog ate my homework scenario. You got to have
Yeah,
proof.
you gotta have
but
proof.
you actually had.
Yeah, we had proof.
Yeah, via disposable camera that then had to have film developed.
Yeah.
Well, present day life. Obviously, we working, talking about being both fathers now, which is fucking crazy. Yeah. How is modern life treating you, man? How are you balancing work and gigging and familying and doing the whole damn thing?
Well, I don't know how I'm doing it. That's
We might need an objective source for this. We'll have to ask your wife.
Yeah, exactly. Trying my best.
Yeah.
No, it's great. We don't play out as much as we used to, just because, you know, we're not a cover band, so like
Right.
you can't just keep playing every night. You know,
Sure.
People want to get, if you give them too much, then it's going to be one of those things like, oh yeah, you can always go see them
Exactly.
play. So it's like we play like, you know, every 2 months or whatever.
Yeah.
Or you know, do some weird, like in the past year we've done these weird like little private parties, and it's been kind of like odd because it's like you're not, you know, I've done it a bunch, but for us, you know, it's like weird to be like, wait, we're getting paid to play in front of nobody. And
Right.
It's like yes,
At a private party.
at a private party because they want to hear you play. You know.
Right. It's bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, but I mean,
all power to you. I
Yeah.
mean, y'all been doing it for 20 some odd years.
it is odd where people just want, you know, like you to come play at their party, and it's like, because you used to get that all the time, like, yeah, dude, come play at our party, and it's like, oh, you didn't tell me you live on the 3rd floor,
Right.
you know, and it's like, oh, you didn't tell me that the cops are already shutting the party down before you start playing one note, you know, and
Yeah.
it's like, you know, oh yeah, you can have as much of that foamy beer as you want, like that's you know.
Exactly.
But like when someone's, you know, hey, I'll give you all this money, all the food you want to eat, and you can pull right up to the stage that you're playing. It's like, all right, you know.
Fuck yeah, man. Speaking, here's one other bizarre scenario. A snare drum that I sold you a very long time ago that you still have, that you played for years, and I would see you and I'd be like, he is still playing that fucking snare drum. I was at Portside Lounge, speaking of Danny Nick, your bass player, singer who owns this bar that I'm talking about, and I went in the back and I was talking to him and I looked down and the fucking snare drum was right there. I was like, what? Oh my
See
God,
the busted
there it
lugs?
is. Yeah, I did.
You see how the bottom is, the gold is still at the bottom and the top is all silver from new replacement lugs. As a matter of fact, it's at my house now because I have a busted lug I got to replace. I think it's the last gold lug.
That's amazing, dude.
That snare drum's still awesome.
That's amazing.
I've changed everything out on it. Like it had those 2 throw-offs.
Yeah.
I put a butt plate on it.
Yeah.
You know.
That's amazing.
It's a good drum.
It's the old Dennis Chambers pearl snare drum with the white and the gold hardware on it.
Yeah.
Damn, dude.
It's a
still rocking it to this day.
Still rocking it. Like a year or 2 ago, I totally built this, like, it's totally not practical, but like I just wanted it so I built this big, it's a rolling case. And you open it up and it's got like, I may have put like 6 slots to put snare drums in it. So
That's awesome.
I got it in my jam room, and it's like one of those things like, yeah, check this out. And I just pop it open, and it's just like
Check out my snare drums.
Like, those are the gold ones. You know?
Nice. So what I'm hearing here is that you still have my snare drum, you have your brother's records, and you have your dad's snare drum.
Oh, yeah.
So you keep things. That's good. That's a good quality.
I
tend to get rid of
the term
things.
is called hoarding them.
Yeah, I was about to say, do you have space for
You know,
this?
that's changed. It used to be called pack rats.
Right.
When we were definitely, you know, parents were definitely pack rats.
Yeah.
And then it kind of morphed into hoarding.
Hoarding.
You know, which I think it's the same thing.
It is.
But yeah, for a while I was just hoarding all types of gear. Like I can't play the guitar, but I have 2 guitars.
I have 2 guitars on my wall, and I keep thinking I'm going to play them.
Yeah.
I'm like, they look good up there. That's cool. It's decoration. Well, shit, Andy, it was good talking to you, man. I'm going to go get some food. I'm delirious and slightly drunk, so it was good talking to you.
Oh, yeah.
And I look forward to fucking catching up with you and rocking out, my man.
Oh, yeah, man.
Right on, dude. Good having you. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in, and it's always a pleasure talking to some of these influential drummers from the city of New Orleans. They certainly sculpted my playing, and no shortage of great stories to boot. So it's always a kick in the ass talking to them and shooting the shit, as it were. Keep your eyes peeled for all things Suplecs. They're a great band. They've been doing it for a long-ass time. Be sure to check out other episodes of the ongoing New Orleans Drummer Series for the Crash Bang Boom podcast as well. Check them out. All up on the SoundCloud. Subscribe, y'all. All right, everybody. Catch you on the next one. Crash Bang Boom.